leaders, dreamers, changemakers, welcome to the Vibrant Living Podcast. Here, limitations shatter and potential explodes into a kaleidoscope of possibility. At the helm, Donna Tashjian, life mastery coach and founder of Vibrant Living International, weaves godly wisdom and Christian perspective into every step, empowering you to discover your purpose and light up your world. Here is your host, Donna.
I would like to welcome you to another special episode of the Vibrant Living Podcast. And today I have Florence with me, my special new friend who is going to be sharing with us some really profound and insightful truths. Florence, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello, Donna. It's so good to be here. My name is Florence, and I am an empowerment specialist, and I focus on helping women overcome anxiety so that they can just live the life that, God really had planned for them, right? I found that I struggled with anxiety and depression for a lot of years and just really got tired of it, to be fair. And my body really started to give in and give up. And so I thought, you know what, I actually need to make some changes. But I knew that I needed to make small changes like over time because I'm the type of person that wants to change everything today and then tomorrow it's all okay.
Don't we all? We want to microwave it.
Right?
I jokingly tell my clients when I'm working with them, I will say, one of the things I'm going to give you, I'm going to send you in the mail, and it's a magic box. And you get to climb in it and close the curtain and say abracadabra and everything changes.
Right?
And, and at first they think I'm serious.
Because they really want that.
I want that.
I know, it's true. Yeah. Yeah.
So where do you live?
Sorry?
Where do you live?
Oh, I'm in British Columbia, Canada. And right now we have glorious, glorious weather. So, that actually makes quite a big difference around the whole anxiety factor. Just because I feel better, right? When the sun shines, feel more energetic and more capable.
So when did you start experiencing anxiety in your life?
I think I probably had it my entire life. I remember being a little girl and hiding behind my mom's leg. Like if anybody ever came to the door or whatever, I was kind of like peering out from behind her skirts, She had anxiety. And as I learned more about it, I realized that I probably picked up just generational anxiety, because how she was in the world and I was with her a lot. I was one of the younger children, and so I was just with her a lot. But I would have called it, stress or busy or, I don't know that I ever really would have called it anxiety. But then I finally began to realize that I was overthinking things and I was procrastinating and my brain was very busy. Right? Yeah. And that was when I started to think, when my body started to keep score, I had a variety of different things happening in my body. I got diabetes, I had cancer, and when I first had cancer, there was some thought about you have a lot of stress in your life and maybe you need to do something about it. And they weren't making an actual direct correlation, but they were telling me, your body is not happy. And so I thought, I think I need to make some changes. And I was working full time. And of course, I had no time to exercise or eat properly or really process my emotions or do any of those things. And then the pandemic hit and my diabetic numbers started to climb. And so I took a brief time away from my full-time job because I needed to get those numbers down. And I started by walking. I just thought, you know what, I'm going to go outside and I'm going to walk. And then I started talking to the Lord about things because my niece actually had a baby, 26 weeks. And so he was in the NICU and I was praying a lot for her. And then it just kind of segued into praying for other people and praying for myself. And so that's how I kind of started this layered learning around anxiety. I started to move my body and realized I was starting to feel better.
It is such a huge key. And it is so counterintuitive of what you really feel like doing. you want to pull the covers over and never get out of bed.
Truly.
But to get up and to do some type of movement and walking is very easy to do, um, generally speaking. And
Yes.
and so yes, just beginning to do some type of movement. And it sounds like you were surprised of the results.
I really was. Because I actually went, because my diabetic numbers were higher, and I understood that if I moved my body, that would help. But I didn't really know how it would help. And that was kind of okay. Like just moving my body was a good thing. But what I noticed was while kept walking every day, I started telling the Lord about my emotions. Lord, I've got sadness. Lord, I've got fear. Lord, I've got whatever going on. Because I'd taken a break from work, of course. So there was some concerns about, going back and those things, right? Lord, I've got thoughts that aren't really working for me. What am I going to do about those? And interestingly enough, I started holistically healing myself,
Mhm.
with the help of the Lord, of course, and being able to talk with Him. And in that time, my relationship with Him deepened because it was just simple, right? I
Yeah.
walked, talked, I was in nature. And so I started by just continuing to move. And then I'm like, well, maybe I should add a bit of greenery into my diet, and increase my water, like that sort of thing, right? So I have a program called Radiant Renewal, and I actually take like a two-pronged approach to it. One of
Okay.
our first steps is, deepen your relationship with the Lord, like get that solid, because that is a real big anti-anxiety,
Mhm.
piece. But while you're doing that, let's increase your water intake. Let's increase your greens. Let's increase your bodily movement. Just simple things. And that's why I think it's so important to layer the learning because we're struggling with anxiety. We don't really want to have to do everything by tomorrow or hop into your magic box because we won't really have the skills, right? When
Right.
we come out of the box, we need a skill or two.
Right.
So, yeah.
Those things sound so simple that we often would miss the wisdom that's inside those kind of things. So your passion is to really help people transform anxiety into confidence and step into passion, and have more power and make a difference and have an
Yes.
impact in the world. And so as they begin to do that, what are some other things that you have discovered to be able to help them step more into confidence?
One of the biggest things was it's something that I call the empowerment effect. You know how we can be really judgy about ourselves? Like I was comparing myself with other people. How come you can't manage your emotions in the middle of a pandemic? How come you can't, do this or do that? And so I was really judgy about myself, and that translated into being actually quite judgmental about others. In my own insecurity, I really wanted to judge everybody else because if they could please just kind of come to my level, we would be okay, right? And in praying about it one time, the Lord said, "You're fearfully and wonderfully made." And I thought, I don't know that I really believe that, in the midst of all of my struggles. But He really kept pushing that message on me. And so I started to get curious about what that meant. Like, what does it mean to be me? What does it mean for me to have a personal relationship with the Lord? And so I stepped away from being judgy and I just got curious. So, Florence, what does that look like for you?
Mhm.
Um, rather than saying to myself, well, how come you couldn't do? I'd be like, oh, I wonder what was happening that I chose this behavior. And I was able to kind of step back a little bit. And it was huge how much difference that made for me. Because instead of me being judgmental, I got curious. And with that came compassion for me in the midst of a pandemic trying to run my life,
Mhm.
and I couldn't wait to tell other people about that piece because like you said, it seems pretty simple.
Yeah.
We just need somebody to kind of walk alongside us and show us how to do that on a daily basis.
Yeah. It's one of the paradigms that I teach, and whatever you judge, you retain.
Yeah.
You repeat the behavior that you judge. So if I beat myself up for eating ice cream, I will probably finish the container.
Yes. Whereas
Um,
if I'm kind of curious about that, be like, oh, how come I felt I wanted ice cream today? And for me, a lot of times it's about there's an emotion bubbling up. And if I say to myself, okay, I'm having this bowl of ice cream, and actually while I'm having it, I can sort of think, what is the emotion? Then I can put the bucket back in the freezer.
I know. What
Yeah.
needs to be nourished instead? And what am I trying to soothe with this ice cream? And curiosity is wonderful. Whenever we have curiosity instead of judgment, we can always get freedom and stepping back from it. One of the things I'm sure you've said too is like, so if this was one of your friends going through what you're going through, how would you speak to them?
Right.
Doubt it would be like you're talking to yourself and being so harsh with yourself. So we've talked about changing our diet, adding a little bit more greens, increasing our water and movement and our relationship with God, and then self-care. I've quit judging myself. I've quit beating myself up because all of those are negative emotions that are just brewing inside me that are not producing what we want. We think by being hard on ourselves that we'll change, but as I often say, is how's that working for you?
Right.
It's like it doesn't work at all. So those are some really important truths. So what else have you discovered along your journey?
Well, that we need a couple of practical tools. I
Mhm.
need a better way of communicating, right?
Okay.
And so in my program, also, I teach people about being assertive and setting boundaries. That's a big one. How to say no without feeling guilty. And as I get to know myself better, as my clients get to know themselves better, they can set boundaries with ease and with love. So, for example, I'm an introvert. So there's things that as an introvert, I just need, like I need space here and there. I need white space in my calendar. And as I started to realize that, I would just share that with people. Oh, I'd love to get together with you. Can we do it tomorrow? Like today, this doesn't work, right? And as I started to explain that more, people would be like, yeah. And even others would say to me, oh, I like that idea. I'm going to do that. And so, that command that says love God first and then your neighbor as yourself, it just
Hmm.
really opened things up because as my clients and myself started to be more respectful of how God had created us as unique human beings, we could then share that with other people. Hey, this is how God created me. How did he create you? And how do you want to um, enforce that boundary that works for you, right? Like it's going to be different for different people. And I'm finding with my clients, they're just like they have these aha moments where they're like, oh, I don't have to run around feeling anxious and busy all the time. I can set a boundary. And we were actually just talking about rest the other day.
Hmm.
God rested after he created the world, right? And
Hmm.
just this concept of creating rest so that we can connect with the Lord and we can connect with ourselves. And then tomorrow we can go and connect with other people from a place of love and compassion, right? Rather than from duty or resentment. And I think the duty and the resentment pieces, that's what increases our anxiety because we're not being true to ourselves. We're not feeling really anchored to the Lord because we're doing this, right? Rather than following how God made me, I'm trying to be more like the neighbor next door who's extroverted and loves being around people all the time, right? And
Hmm.
so, yeah,
Well, one of the things that I often say is boundaries are doors, not walls. It's how you enter my life. It's
yeah,
how things enter my life as opposed to feeling like, because often we think, well, I'm going to be mean by saying
right.
oh, that kind of stuff. And it's just like, if I was to come over to your house, Florence, and try to climb in your bedroom window, you would go, Donna, that's not the way you come into my house. You're welcome to come in, but
Right.
you come in this way.
Yes.
And when you think about boundaries in that respect, it's like I am just saying this is what works for me and who God's made me, just like you said. But climbing in my bedroom window doesn't work. And
No.
so just learning that it's because we get hesitant to make a boundary because it's like it's a wall and I'm going to keep you out of my life. And sometimes there's people you may need to do that. But
Hmm.
that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about how things enter our life because when you say yes to something, you're also saying no to something.
Hmm.
And when we begin to realize that, then it brings more peace,
Hmm.
more joy and calmness and alignment and all of those wonderful things into our life. So
Yes.
if people wanted to follow up with you and get to know you, what kind of resources do you have and where would they find you?
Oh, I have a website. It's called A Life Designed by Love, where love is, God and all the good things that happen for us.
Hmm?
And on there, there's resources. So I've created a couple of ebooks that have really been close to my heart. One of my most recent one is From Crying to Confidence, 5 Powerful Steps for Healing Transformation. And in there, I talk about really 5 different steps of my program that help us move from feeling anxious to feeling confident. And I've lived it, my clients have lived it. It's entirely possible to do this. I remember somebody said to me one time, well, you can't actually overcome anxiety. And
Right.
at the time, I thought, I wonder if she's right. But the Lord has shown me it is absolutely possible. I've just gone through a really difficult month, like a lot of unexpected things happening. And although I feel the tension of life, I'm really clear that we still have tension of life. I know that I was not anxious during that time. I just kept thinking, God's got this. He's got it figured out. I have tools in my belt, and
Mhm.
I can absolutely navigate this with grace and with patience and mostly with a nap or two.
Yes, that is one of my soapboxes is of all of the things, it's one thing that people say you can never get over. And I firmly disagree because I have seen proof of the opposite. So anything is possible with God. Everything is possible, including any illness, anything, all is possible when we open up to the possibilities and have a life designed by love. Anything is possible. So
Right?
it's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah.
So that is your website. And did you have a gift for today?
Yes, I do. I actually have two ebooks. One of them is 3-minute hacks to reduce anxiety. It was one of the first things that I wrote because it was so important to me in the
Mhm.
midst of working full time. And, I just needed a moment or two here or there to help with that. And then actually the other one is the ebook From Crying to Confidence. I just think it's so important to believe that we can move from anxiety to confidence. And so that book is all about that.
Wonderful. So repeat your website again.
A Life Designed by Love.
All right. And we will have that information in the show notes as well for people to go and take advantage of and getting to know you better. And I suppose they can find you on social media as well.
Yes, I'm on Facebook, just under my name, Florence
Okay.
Westering.
Okay.
Yep, yep.
Wonderful. As we wind up our time together today, Florence, I'd like you to pause for a minute. And what is one word of wisdom or thought that you would like to share in closing?
Compassion.
And tell me more.
Have compassion for yourself as you journey through life. Because I think the lack of compassion or us being really judgmental is what increases our anxiety. And as we're more compassionate towards ourselves, it definitely translates to being more compassionate towards others.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much for being a guest on the Vibrant Living podcast, and we will put all your information in the show notes.
Thank you so much for having me. It has been so fun to connect with you.
That was a wonderful conversation with Florence, and I hope you enjoyed it and you take away some tips to decrease the amount of anxiety in your life. The way that the world is, it is so easy to have anxiety in our life. And using these simple but tips that are full of wisdom to be able to reduce our anxiety and have a life full of peace. I also want to mention to you my Turn Your Baggage into Luggage program, helping people to transform those pain points into something that is like a launching pad for all of the goodness that God has for your life. In Jeremiah, God promised us, the plans I have for you are good and full of hope and a wonderful future. And I would love to assist you in stepping into vibrant living fully. So the link is there for you to schedule a time to talk with me or visit my website and get all of the free resources that I have available as well. So until I'm back with you again, blessings, and I will look forward to talking with you soon. Bye for now.
I hope your soul feels ignited, your spirit nourished, and your mind buzzing with possibilities. Share this with a friend who needs a dose of vibrant living. Tag us on hashtag Vibrant Living Podcast and tell us your biggest takeaway. For more support, clarity, and wisdom, visit Donna at iVibrantLiving.com. See you soon.